Hello, at their time once again to make news on your program, our program Newsmaker. My name is Akinola, Owolabi. Our Newsmaker today is not somebody that is strange to you in terms of his activities and his name. But then you must have not heard him on a program of this nature on this channel. He is one of us in the state of Osun, a member of the National Assembly, precisely the upper chamber of the National Assembly. A senator representing Osun East Senatorial District. By now, I want to believe you'll be guessing. If your guess is that our guest on this program is Senator Babajide Omoworare, I will say you are right. Senator, welcome on this program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the program.
Well, Senator Babajide Omoworare is the Vice Chairman, Senate Committee on Federal Character, member, Health, Judiciary, Petroleum Committees of the Senate. Once again, you're welcome.
Thank you.
How has it been?
We are coping. It's been tough, but we are coping. We thank God. We are coping. It's been tough. But
Everybody in Nigeria tries to cope, including a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I know everybody in Nigeria tries to cope, but senators also cope because the nature of the work is that you have to keep shuttling. You have to keep traveling between your senatorial districts, trying to fulfill that important function of a legislator, which is a representative function, by letting the people know what is happening in Abuja and taking the feedback of the people back to Abuja, and having to appear on the floor of the Senate on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday as a lawmaker, also moving motions, attending committee meetings, doing your oversight. By the time you know it, it's Thursday evening or Friday morning, you have to scuttle back to your senatorial district, hold senatorial meetings, meet people, and we are talking about a senatorial district that has 996 polling units, 109 wards, and 10 local governments and 1 area council in Ife East, in Modeke, Ife East.
I can see why you are coping.
You are coping. You are hanging in all the time.
Okay.
But you thank God, like I said, it's important to always thank God because God has given you the grace, the favor, and the opportunity to serve the people.
Okay, this program is being transmitted today, the Democracy Day. And you cannot but talk about democracy. But let me start from you on a personal note, Senator Babajide Omoworare. Since the return of Nigeria to democracy, how will you say democracy has treated you as a person, or how you have treated democracy as a system of governance?
You see, again, I will say that democracy is better than any other form of administration of affairs of men. Because democracy, like we all know, is government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's some people. In fact, don't let us forget that we got democracy from Greece. The people decided that instead of a king or some other people in those days deciding for us, the people wanted to decide for themselves. And the people now, and instead of everybody standing in the city center or market square and determining issues, people should be represented. So democracy started with people being represented, which is why I tell people all the time that the strongest and the most important arm of governance is the parliament. Because whilst the executive is the election of the president and the vice, and they now appoint everybody else, every parliamentarian is elected. The true representatives of the people are in that assemblage of men called the parliament or the congress or national assembly or Knesset or any
whatever name you call
it. So I think democracy is important in Nigeria, and some of us, because of our orientation, because of our education, we have tried to test democracy to its fullest limit, like an elastic band.
Okay.
Let me explain the reason to you. By training, I'm a lawyer, and I did constitutional and administrative law. And the greatest way of testing democracy is to go through the whole org of constitutional Anglo-Saxon jurisprudence. Go through testing each time. What does this provision say? What does that provision say? The beauty of democracy is that there are checks and balances. The parliament itself, I, as the representative of the people, the entire people of Ifakojaye, of Ife-Jesha, Senatorial District, cannot, on my own, make a law. The president has to assent to the law. Do you understand?
Okay.
There are checks and balances,
okay,
which is the beauty
of democracy.
Which is why some of us have decided that we must test democracy to its fullest limits.
Okay.
And democracy has also given us, because the question is that how have we related vice versa?
Person, how have you fared under this democratic rule? Since the return of Nigeria to democratic rule, how have you fared?
I've tried my best. I've represented the people of Ifakojaye State Constituency 1 in Lagos. I was elected in 1999 in Lagos as a member of the Lagos State House of Assembly, and I did 8 years in Lagos. I left Lagos in 2007 as the majority leader in Lagos State House of Assembly, and I came to the State of Osun. I'm from Ile-Ife, and I was also born in Ikeshala. I was born in Ijeda, in Oriade local government.
That's it.
Which means I'm a complete Osun East person, the Osun East senator.
Okay.
Now, on getting to Osun State, we conducted an election which I believe I won, which I believe was manipulated, and we went to court. Another beauty of democracy, the court decided that there should be a rerun. But my party felt, and my party in its infinite wisdom felt that we would just be wasting money and materials by contesting that election. So we did not contest the election. That was the rerun that was supposed to be in 2009. But by the grace of God, in 2011, I was voted to represent the good people of Osun East. Now, democracy, either from 1999, when I was in Lagos State House of Assembly, or from 2011, when I have represented the good people of Osun East, has shown me, has given me more experience. Even though as a lawyer you have this general idea, those ideas are theoretical
until they are put into practice.
And you put them into practice when you now sit down. You now move a motion, and you now see the effects, the consequence of the resolution, because what culminates after you move a motion is a resolution. You now see the effect of the resolution. Let me give you an example. When I was in Lagos, there is this bridge that was almost coming down because the land mass under the bridge was being eroded. And I went to the floor of the Senate and I moved the motion, or the floor of the Lagos State House of Assembly, and I moved the motion, and lo and behold, the governor of the state of Osun now, who was the works commissioner, started work on the bridge. That is the influence, the power, and what a parliamentarian can do, what democracy has bestowed on us, what voice democracy has given a common man on the street through the person representing him. Now in the Senate, after the demise of a foremost jurist in Nigeria, Justice Oke-Baale, I moved a motion in the Senate that, knowing who Justice Oke-Baale was when he was on Mother Earth, there was need to immortalize him. And one day we were at a public function, and the CJN of Nigeria, Justice Aloma Mukhtar, was telling me that, Senator, we have affected your resolution. I was elated, because why else will people vote for you if there is no synergy between the quest of the people and what the people see at the end of the day? You are voted for to go and represent the people. You go there. So that democracy has done for me.
Okay.
Democracy has put into practice what I learned as a lawyer, what I went through the class to learn, what I went through tutorials to learn.
Okay.
You can now see it in action.
Okay. Now, let's look at other activities of yours, most especially at the National Assembly. You have spoken of the motion moved in the Lagos State House of Assembly, the one concerning Justice Oke-Baale
In the
of
Senate.
blessed memory in the Senate. Now, let's look at other activities in terms of bills that will have positive impacts on the lives of your people and the entire Nigerians as a whole. Can you remember any that you were actively involved in?
I've been involved in a lot of motions, and I've been involved in a lot of bills. Let me say this for the benefit of our audience, of our viewers. A parliamentarian acts essentially in two ways, two manners, two modes, either through bills, which results culminates into laws or acts, as it is called in the National Assembly, laws in the State Assembly, or through motions that result or culminates into resolution. The former, that is, the bills that end up being laws or acts, have force. The motions that become resolutions are persuasive. A wise government like Chief Akinola SAN said during the fuel subsidy impasse, a wise government will listen to a parliament even though it is a resolution and not an act or a law. So what I'm saying is that I've tried to use personally, just like you asked, I've tried to use the parliament in my own situation, in my own circumstance, the Senate, to have positive impact on the people. It may take long time. I will explain it to you. It may take long time.
Okay.
By way of bills, I have a bill that is coming up very soon at the committee level for public hearing on criminal justice, administration of criminal justice, release of prisoners. You know, we have 70% of inmates in Nigeria are awaiting trial, not people that have been convicted and sentenced
And serving jail terms.
70%. It is only Nigeria that has that record in the world. So I have a bill that now compels the CJN or the CJ in the state to release prisoners that have done the time that they would have done if they had been convicted or sentenced. Let me break it down. If the offense somebody has committed will prescribe 3 years imprisonment and the person is awaiting trial for 3 years, I think it is only commonsensical that the person should be released. But you can't just ask the prison officials to release the person. It must go through a process. So I am amending the process, and I'm of the perspective that it will sail through. That is one. Our constitution. People will talk about constitution and say, let us give the president or the governor or the chairman of the council 6-year single tenure. Let us do this. I think there are more important provisions in the constitution that should be amended. I have proposed by way of 3 bills. Amendment of Section 315. Section 315 is the provision that says the president or the governor can make laws. Laws are made by parliamentarians. But that provision is a transitional provision in the Constitution. And some of us feel that if there was a transition in 1999 between the military and the civilians, and by 2013, after 14 years, you still have laws that gives the governor or the president the power to make laws in conformity with the Constitution. There are bills that, for instance, under the exclusive list of the Constitution, gives power to federal government, and those power already by a decree resides in the state government. The president does not have to come to the National Assembly. He will just make a law, and a lot of people don't know this provision. A lot of people don't know this provision exists. So some of us are of the opinion that by now that provision should stop existing. Okay. We should do away with it. Secondly, there is a provision under the Federal High Court Act, Section 22. If a matter is filed in Federal High Court, because the Federal High Court is a special court, is a commercial court that deals with banking matters, taxation matters, international business transactions, shipping matters, maritime matters, aviation matters, and maybe matters dealing with INEC, or a particular law has said a matter should go to the Federal High Court. Some of us are of the view, because that law now says that the Federal High Court Act, that if a matter is wrongly filed in the Federal High Courts, and the matter should have been filed in the State High Court, instead of dismissing the matter can be transferred to the State High Court. But there is no corresponding provision in the State High Court Act. And if you have to go to the State High Court, that means you have to go to 36 states. Okay. But by virtue of the amendment I'm proposing, the Constitution will now provide for the transfer, which solves the problem of going to the State High Court. A third one is under item I of the Schedule 3 to the Constitution of the Federation. The NJC, which is the supremo, it is the body that has the most enormous powers when it comes to issues of judiciary. That body is a body that the CJN has a rather tyrannical power by determining who becomes a member. Let me give you an example. The CJN is an automatic member. The next most senior judge of the Supreme Court is also a member. The President of the Court of Appeal is a member. The Federal High Court, CJ, is a member. But there are 5 members that will be. There are 5 retired judges of either Supreme Court or Court of Appeal that will be members. And those 5 judges will be determined by the CJN. I think the nature of work of NJC, the CJN should not be given what we in law call suo motu powers to determine who becomes a member. NBA, Nigerian Bar Association, has 5 members. It is the CJN that will determine the 5 members. One Grand Cadi of the Sharia Court of Appeal will be a member. It is the CJN that determines who. The enormous power there you want to see. Then there are so many other bills we've introduced, and some we are even at the last stage of introducing whistleblowing. We feel that whistleblowing will curb corruption in Nigeria. Corruption has been so endemic in Nigeria. Somebody told me last week that about $475 million, let me repeat myself, $475 million used to provide CCTV in Abuja. And over 2/3 of the CCTVs are not working. And nobody is asking any question.
Okay.
Let me give you another example of corruption in Nigeria. What we call intervention fund. I have a motion on that too. Intervention fund. 200 billion was given by the government of Nigeria by way of loan, but with very, very little interest rate being paid, 2 or 3% interest rate, to airline businesses in Nigeria to refleet. Those that have old aeroplanes, go and buy new ones. Those that the aeroplanes are due for C&D checks should go and do the checks. 200 billion. I know somebody that got 36 billion out of the 200 billion.
Okay.
And nothing has been done about it. So we have a Whistleblowers Act coming up that protect a public officer or anybody whatsoever that now says, I have this information. So there is nothing in the official secret act or anything that will incriminate the person.
Okay. Now, for the first time in the political annals of Nigeria,
yes,
we are having 14 years of unbroken democratic rule. I want you to look at it dispassionately, not necessarily because we've been involved since 1999.
Okay.
We say Nigeria is better for it.
I think if you look at my, if I recapitulate my initial statement that democracy is the best form of governance, whether elections are rigged or not, we still have some people that genuinely emerge, that are voted for. Some people still genuinely do their work as governors. Some people still genuinely do their work as parliamentarians. I would think democracy is good, and I would think Nigeria has been better for it.
Okay.
Let me just explain myself just a little further. If you look at the spate of development that took place in Lagos between 1999 and 2013, it has never, and I'm choosing my words advisedly, it has never happened in the history of Lagos State. If you look at the development that has taken place in the state of Osun in the past 2.5 years, it has never happened in the state of Osun. If you look at the development that has happened in Ogun State since Governor Ibikun Amosu took over, it has never happened before. I can say the same thing for Ekiti and for Oyo. Now, what that has done is to buttress and strengthen my position that democracy is better than military. A military man comes from the barracks, is going back to the barracks, he just wants to do some razzmatazz and go back. I will say that. I will say we have not fully utilized the opportunities democracy has given us. So much misappropriation is still taking place. So much corruption is still taking place. If we manage this democracy very well, Nigeria will be going at a meteoric pace, which is what we need.
Okay.
We don't need Nigeria of, after all I've been voted for, let me see what happens. And you spend 4 years, and even if you are voted out, you have wasted 4 years in the lifetime of an individual, and you multiply that by the number of people in your state.
Okay, that is also. Now, Senator Babajide Omoworare, your answer to my last question more or less answered in part the next question, but still I want to really hit the nail on the head. Let's look at an average Nigerian, the common man on the streets.
Yes.
To what extent will you say democracy has impacted positively on him or her? We hear the economy is improving, so is happening. But when you look at the average man on the streets, it seems as if there is no real correlation between it. When you look at power supply, it's still at epileptic level. You see most of the problems that were there 1999, you still have some of them still rearing their ugly heads. So how far would you say Nigerians are
benefited?
Yes.
I will say that it depends. The question is contextual.
Okay.
And we have to put it in the proper context.
Please do. You are at liberty.
The federal government has failed woefully, considering your analysis and your question. The reason why I'm saying this is that in Nigeria, and I will break this down so that we can all understand. Section 162 of the Constitution provides that there shall be one federation account, and every money coming into Nigeria will be put into that single federation account. Before money is now split into money for federal, money for state, money for local governments, in furtherance of the revenue allocation, as the Revenue Mobilization Fiscal Commission would have directed. Now, in Nigeria, 51% of money made in Nigeria, 51% is given to federal government of Nigeria. That is why I'm saying we have to put it in proper context. The federal government in my own state, the state of Osun, Owolabi, has not done anything. With the 51%, the 30% derivation would have been taken out before the money is now split into 51% federal, 26% I believe for states, which means 36 states will now share 26% of the allocation minus derivation. And Osun is one of the states, because there are parameters depending on land mass and population and ecological issues that determine how much a state is given. Osun is one of the states that take least. Before the remaining amount, which I believe should be like 23%, is given to local governments. 774 local governments now share 23%. You can see now in the state of Osun what the local governments are doing with the money. You can see now in the state of Osun the little money that is given to the state of Osun, what the state is doing with it. 51%. What is the federal government doing with it? Nothing. That is why I say we have to put it in proper context.
Okay.
The federal government has failed, and has failed woefully. Look, the people must feel the impact of government. An average man walking the streets of Osogbo, Ife, Ilesha, he does not have any reason, he does not feel the impact of federal government, because, okay, let me tell you this. What is the business of federal government with Keke Napep? There are MDG projects, federal government. So much money is sunk into this project. Computer centers are built, skill acquisition centers are built, libraries are built. Who is taking care of all these things? Boreholes. Transformers are given. Okay. These things run down. It is even against the World Bank standard to provide for money for a venture, for an enterprise, for a project, and not provide for money in recurrent budget. How to maintain? Who is maintaining the borehole in front of the Ogunshua's Palace today? Okay,
now Senator Omoworare, you are raising so many questions. Unfortunately, the answer, like they say, are hanging out there in the sky. Now, I want you to look at one thing: the political class in Nigeria.
Yes.
People will say, I don't know if you've ever heard it. Political class in Nigeria is one, and when you look at everybody, they are the one in charge of the administration of the country, whether at federal, state, or local level, depending. I know you want to bring parties into it, but even at that, if you are to assess the political class in Nigeria since 1999 to date, remember what happened between 1960 and 1966? How the political class paved the way, like some will say, for the death of the First Republic. The Second Republic came, the aborted Third Republic. Now we say the political class are better off, have learnt their lesson, and Nigeria will be the better for it? Or is it the same old story?
It's a question of orientation.
Who will orientate you?
And I can speak for where I know.
Okay.
And where I know is southwestern Nigeria. That is a place you go back home all the time. You take. I don't know of any other place in Nigeria that is as responsive as southwestern Nigeria. And one of the reasons why it is good for all these things to happen, to test our constitution, is how we react to events that occur. Let me take you back to the example you gave, the instance you gave, that the political class between 1960 and 1966. Why was there? Don't forget the beginning of the demise. Let me put it this way: the genesis of the demise, or the genesis of the revelation of the First Republic, was the state of emergency declared in Western region. And I think the mistake made by the Western region then was that the Western region should have positively resisted. Out of about just slightly over 300, I think the members of the assembly in Ibadan then were just about 300, and about 11 out of 300 were causing mayhem on the floor of the parliament, and the federal government declared state of emergency. What we have come to realize in Nigeria, which is the beauty of this exercise of you and I talking, is that federal government has no power to dissolve, which was why the Senate recently and the House of Reps approved in the most unfortunate manner, because whether you like it or not, nobody wants state of emergency. In the most unfortunate manner and circumstance, the National Assembly, both the House of Representatives and the Senate, approved the state of emergency.
Do you have another option?
We may not approve it, because the ultimate power under Section 305 of the Constitution lies with the National Assembly. In fact, the moment the National Assembly says we are not approving, then it means there is no state of emergency. In fact, if we did not act when we did, by a function of time and operation of law, the state of emergency would have abated. So the point I'm making is that in the First Republic, had the parliamentarians and the people resisted, because that was the precedent President Olusegun Obasanjo followed in Plateau and Ekiti states. And President Goodluck Jonathan was wise enough, and I'm choosing my words advisedly again, was wise enough not to dissolve people voted for as governors and parliamentarians in those places, because he has no such powers. Okay. The reason why I'm saying this is that the political class in Southwest measure, and I think we have done well. Okay. The political class that has been opportuned to be at federal government has not done well enough, because there is a serious disconnect between the people and the people governing the people. They don't feel the pulse. They don't know how much diesel is sold. They don't know how much petroleum is sold. They don't know how much kerosene is sold. They don't know how much gari is sold.
Okay. Now, So, happenings in the governance forum. I'd asked that question on the political class because the governance forum, we will also have people from the political class there. The election of the chairman of the forum generated so much worry that as we are speaking, you now have two parallel bodies, two separate chairmen, and governors of all political parties were involved in the said election, and you still have allegations coming from the governors, from members of the forum, of saying the election was rigged. People are beginning to wonder, to ask, these are elected leaders, the mirror of Nigeria to the outside world in various states across the federation. If we are having this, are we saying the political class have really learned their lesson in the real sense of it?
We have gone through this process several times. I call it the threshold of history. When history is in the making, you may not know that history is in the making, or you may not even know that you are part of history until when it has happened. You now say, oh, so when this thing was happening, history was in the making. I'm not telling you, I'm telling everybody, what is happening now in Nigeria is history in the making.
Okay.
Is when people are trying their humanly possible best to hold on to straw to survive. They are trying their humanly possible best. Let me start from the fact that as I'm talking to you, I'm an elected member of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria under the auspices of Action Congress of Nigeria. But don't forget that there is a resolution. Action Congress of Nigeria is in transition.
Okay.
We are moving towards APC.
Okay.
And people are scared. Don't forget that two parties overnight emerged to say the federal government of Nigeria, and I make bold to say the PDP-led federal government of Nigeria is trying its humanly possible best not to make history happen. History is about to happen. Let me tell you what happened.
Anybody make history not to happen?
No, it's not possible. It's destiny.
Okay.
It's destiny. Let me tell you what happened to the governors forum.
Okay.
A governor who was of PDP extraction decided in its own wisdom, and he made positive and constructive criticism of Mr. President. Mr. President now did not like it. In a democracy, you must be able to assimilate criticism. Mr. President now went into the arena that he should not go into, just like he did in Tambuwa's case. The first time he made the mistake, and he must learn. The essence of this exercise is for you to learn. We thought he learned in Tambuwa's case. This time around, they now gathered at a place that is supposed to be for all of us, which is funded by taxpayers' money, called Osogbo. They now chose one other man that is the governor, by the grace of God, is the governor of Akwa Ibom today, as the chairman of PDP Governors Forum. That was where the president got himself emerged in this politics. They now went to a meeting in Abuja. I'm fast forwarding.
You just have to, because of our time.
I have time, don't worry. I have time. I have time. We can be here till tomorrow.
We
can relay it again next week.
Okay.
The president now got himself involved. I'm fast forwarding. I don't want to talk about anything that has happened in between. The governors met. Look, you must vote according to your conscience. That was the position of some governors. Some governors said we must vote according to party line. They now gave governors blank sheet of paper to sign. As at that time, don't forget, Governor Jang was not running to be chairman of that forum. It was Governor Shema and Governor of Bauchi State. Yuguda, Governor Yuguda, they were running. So, some governors, to show you the capacity, the unfortunate situation we have found ourselves in Nigeria, some governors signed the blank paper, not knowing who will be the chairman of the governors forum. All of a sudden, Governor Jang came on the scene. They now went for the meeting. Some governors were now postulating that election must be open.
Okay.
The governors on the other side said in Nigeria today we use secret balloting and that it must be secret balloting. Two governors who had obviously signed a blank sheet of paper. At the end of the day,
Yes, sir.
Election was conducted. Let me tell you the main cross of this issue.
Okay.
Should Governor Rotimi Amechi step down as incumbent before the election? My response is, the governor of Akwa Ibom that made this allegation, did he step down as governor of Akwa Ibom when he was going for the election? There is no incumbent that steps down before election. You are either beaten as an incumbent or you retain your position as an incumbent. Okay. So, like, the lesson for all of us, for Nigerians, is that the lesson is very simple. The lesson for all of us is that forget about what some governors are doing. Those governors, including the president, are afraid of history in the making.
Okay.
And they can't stop it.
So finally, before we go on this program, State of Osun, wherever you go today, is endorsement for Mr. Governor. Communities, groups, bodies, even professional bodies, even unions. 2014 is just by the corner. By next year, we'll be going into the governorship election in the state of Osun. What will you say this series of endorsements of Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola for a second term of office say?
Yeah, may I, on a light note, jocularly, say that whatever I have said today about Southwest, you have endorsed it. Even you. Let me tell you why you have endorsed it. I said,
thank God you said you were taking it.
Let me tell you the reason. I said in Southwest, we feel the pulse of the people. We go to the people, we tell the people we will do the following things. And we go back to the people and say, please vote for us, because the things we promised you, we have done. And we mention the things we promised them. And we tell them we have done it. Let me tell you something. Our orientation, starting from Chief Obafemi Awolowo, up to Uncle Bola Ige, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, we are not taught how to read. We are taught how to perform. Let me explain what has happened in Osun. The governor of Osun is developing the state of Osun in annoyance. He has just decided that how can we be in a state that networking, driving becomes not only stringent, it becomes even at times hazardous. We must do something. And let me tell you this again. The government of Osun did not just haphazardly happen. The government of Osun was well thought of. Because, number one, we asked God before we started. And God said, that I will give you the opportunity of doing well for the people in that state. So we owe God. Number one, very clear. That must be very clear. Number two, equally important, we sat down. Just like you will do if you want to set up your enterprise, if you want to start a business, whether you are literate or illiterate, you will do what is called feasibility study. How many people do I need to work with me? Human resource development. Where do I sell my products? Marketing. Where do I get my funding? Financial management. Am I going to use computers, phones, to do my business, to make sure my business grow, ICT. What process will I use to manufacture? Operations management. How do I conceptualize this government? Strategic management.
Okay.
The government of the state of Osun is not haphazard. The governor and some people sat down and said, what do we do when God, in fulfillment of his promise, gives us the opportunity to serve the people? These are the things we will do. And the government is now playing that script. So I can tell you that just like an enterprise, the state of Osun is not run haphazardly. The state of Osun, okay, let me just explain some things to you. The fact that government is giving uniform free of charge today is a concept that has been well thought of. Okay. The fact that food is given to children is well thought of. And so we can talk about agri, we can talk about tourism, we can talk about health, we can talk about infrastructural development. The number I make, and I want to be controverted. I want anybody, I make bold. 310 kilometers of road being done by local governments in any state in Nigeria at the same time. If anybody can beat that record, and we are not arrogant about it, we are just proud of God or the opportunity God has given us. And that is why, going back to my initial jocular what I said initially, what you said,
the question,
by way of asking the question, is that the governor of Osun is doing well.
Okay, I want to believe our guest or newsmaker today, Senator Babajide Omoworare, has done well.
We thank God.
I want to say thanks for being on the program.
Thank you very much.
So much to talk about for time. We'll still need you one of these days to come and speak on so many other.
By the grace of God, whenever you call me,
we hope we'll be able to throw the line open for people to call on you to seek clarifications, to ask questions, and to make observations.
Thank you very much.
Once again, thanks a great
Thank
deal
you. Thank
for
you.
being
Thank you
on
very
this
much.
program.
Thank you very much.
For everybody that has been involved, we are appreciative of your efforts. Me, Omoworare, has been very, very useful in getting this episode done. So our viewers out there, thanks for being there. Hopefully we'll meet again on Newsmaker next week. Until then, this is Akinola. Owolabi.